Yo, what up, what up? Today we're taking a look at the fresh joint, the Spraydelic Plugin. It's been designed to deliver an exceptional distressing experience, emulating the look of spray paint, grainy textures, and stencil-like effects. But more importantly, it's built as a complete and thoughtfully engineered system, giving you precise control over every stage of the process. The result is a workflow that stays predictable, flexible, and genuinely enjoyable to experiment with, allowing you to push the effect exactly as far as you want. So let's take a look at how it works. By default, the plugin starts with a black and white preset containing a single slider. Each slider operates on two axes and acts as both a balance controller and a mixer between the left and right colors. So basically, when you drag the slider, you are adjusting the color balance and shifting the tonal range of the image. The color wheel is arranged from left to right, highlights on the left, shadows on the right. That's the key, because the system expects you to work through the tones in that order. Now, double-clicking anywhere on the color wheel creates a new split and slider, so once you got the hang of that, you can start building more complex color transitions. If you double-click a slider, the split gets removed, and when two colors merge after deleting a slider, the result always takes the color on the right. A single click on any color zone opens the Photoshop color picker, allowing you to change the color. You know, kind of like standard Photoshop behavior, but this keeps everything locked in directly to the wheel workflow. Now, if you want to move faster, you can simply drag and drop swatches from predefined or imported palettes directly onto the color areas. And these are super handy, especially when you want to recolor an image. So let's say you're experimenting with different palettes. This makes the process really fluid and keeps the fun going while exploring different looks. The wheel supports up to 5 sliders, so once you got the structure built up, you can start shaping the tonal flow more precisely. There are also a few shortcuts that make the workflow smoother. Shift and drag move all sliders simultaneously. Control drag move the slider on the left and right toward or away from the active slider, while Alt drag move the active slider together with the slider on the right, proportionally expanding or shrinking a color area without affecting the neighboring areas. The plugin supports 3 color mix modes, each defined in the style of the spray effect. Click the center of the wheel to toggle between soften, fade, and smooth modes. Drag the slider toward the center of the wheel to control the intensity of the color mix between the left and right areas. And that's basically how you dial in a spray blend and execute it to a degree you want. You can experiment with different combinations, push transitions further, or keep them subtle. You can have a lot of fun with this. Alright, now let's jump into Palette Warehouse, cause this is basically where all the color stuff lives. Think of it as your hub for palettes, swatches, and preset color systems, all that good stuff, you know. So first, the Factory Color System tab. This includes over 200 swatches, based on real-world spray can colors. Just drag them straight into the wheel and start building your color setup. Now, right next to that, you got the Imported Colors tab. This is where things get really flexible, cause you can pull palettes directly from popular palette generators like Coolors, Color Hunt, or Adobe Color. To do that, click Import icon. That opens the palette generator quick links pop-up, which give you fast access to those palette sites. And honestly, these are super handy, cause you can jump between palette generators and your plugin workflow without slowing down. So let's say you're using Coolors. Just click 3-dot icon under a palette and choose Copy as URL. Then paste that link into the input field and hit OK. The palette shows up instantly as swatches inside your library. And with Adobe Color, open the palette and click Copy as XML. Now you can start dragging those colors straight into the wheel and kind of build your color script from there. If you want to tweak any of the imported colors, that's super easy too. Just double click a swatch and you can adjust the color however you want. The Imported Colors tab also supports multi-selection. You can shift click to select multiple swatches, or just drag across an empty area to marquee select a bunch at once. Then simply drag those swatches onto the trash icon to delete them. Alright, Now one last piece inside the palette warehouse, the OG preset section. This is where you can save the entire state with the wheel, all the colors, sliders, settings as a reusable preset. Now that look is stored and ready whenever you need it. You can also reorder presets simply by dragging them inside the list. And if you ever want to remove one, just select it and click delete. At the end of the day, the palette warehouse is really about speed. You can pull palettes from the web, tweak them, build personal color systems, and reuse them whenever you want. So once you start building up your library, you can have a lot of fun experimenting with different spray looks without rebuilding everything from scratch. Alright, now let's move on to the render settings. First up, the real-time update feature. When this is enabled, the plugin renders the effect live while you move the sliders, so you can instantly see how your adjustment affects the result. Performance here mostly depends on your computer specs and the size of the source image. Now here is something important on how the plugin builds the final result. The renderer outputs the effect as a composition of swatch layers. So instead of baking everything into a single image, the plugin generates separate layers for each color. That means the result stays fully flexible for further editing. And this is where layer order becomes important, because the sequence determines how the layers are rendered and stacked. The dark to light sequence works best for lighter images. In this mode, the renderer processes the wheel from right to left, meaning darker colors get placed above lighter ones in the layer stack. And for darker images, you will usually want to use light to dark instead. In this mode, the colors are processed from left to right, placing lighter layers above darker ones. Next up is output blur. This value controls a post blur applied to each layer in the final render, which helps enhance the realism of the spray grain. The default value is 0.3, and that's generally the sweet spot for most images. Now the important part is that the blur is non-destructive. Once the render is complete, you can still adjust it directly through the mask feather setting on each layer. And if you want the raw pixel output, you can simply set this value to off. Now the spray preset is something you usually want to pick early in the process. That's because it defines the grain size, spread, and overall visual character of the spray effect. Now let's talk about drips, which add a little bit of extra character to the effect. The drips amount slider generates procedural paint drips, and these are rendered as a separate layer in the final composition. Right below that, the drip slider controls the scale of those drips. Alright, let's move to the color clip slider. What's important here, the drips are generated based on the colors currently presented on the wheel. The color clip slider lets you define which part of the tonal range the drips can use. So you can clip the effect toward the darkest tones, the lightest tones, or anywhere in between. Now let's take a look at the paint effects tab. These assets are meant to be added after you save the final result. In other words, once the plugin has already rendered the layered composition. So the idea here is pretty simple. First you build and render your spray effect, and then you can start layering additional paint elements on top. The plugin uses intelligent asset placement, which means when you add an asset, it automatically adopts the color of active swatch, so everything stays visually consistent with the color system you already built. And right after the asset appears, the plugin automatically enters edit mode. That means you can immediately scale, rotate, and position the asset however you want it. And that's pretty much it. Now you're ready to start experimenting and building your own designs. Have fun with it.